to Where Are They Now? Quarantine Edition from Wild Horse Productions. I'm Carol Scott, Executive Director, and with me today is Payton Henderson. How are you, Payton?
Hi, Carol. I'm good. How are you doing?
It's so good to see you and to see all the colors in your hair because I was looking at some old pictures and one you were blonde, completely blonde, and then we have blue, and then we had a purple time, and now we have a rainbow time. So you
My
always,
hair has gone through a lot of changes.
yes, you brighten up not only our visuals, but you brighten up my day all the time.
Oh, thanks, Carol.
So tell us, where are you quarantining right now?
I'm actually in Southern Oregon now. I'm still going to work full time, so that's been interesting during this quarantine time.
Oh, working and having to go into work every day, but
Yep, I'm
you're
still going
you're
to the
safe
office.
and healthy.
Yes, thank goodness.
Okay. So we're talking about Wild Horse, so all of our young
Yeah.
actors can see some of our alumni. So let's start with how long you've been were with Wild Horse before you graduated, and what show you did first, and what was your last show. So tell us a little bit about your experience at Wild Horse.
Yeah. So I started with Wild Horse. It was the very first show that Wild Horse did, which was Charlotte's Web. I was a narrator, which I was very proud of. I'm still very proud. Um, it's funny because my mom told me that when she first put me into theater, it was because I was very shy and she wanted me to try and get out of that. And unfortunately, looking at me now, it didn't work. No.
It totally worked.
Yeah.
You were one of our most outgoing, and I can't believe you were ever shy.
It's funny looking back on that time, yeah. But
Right.
that's just a testament, I guess, to how great Wild Horse is.
Um,
Um,
and your last show?
my last show was Beauty and the Beast. It was right before I went off to college.
And who did you play in Beauty and the Beast?
I was Mrs. Potts. It was such a fun role. I loved it.
You were a wonderful Mrs. Potts
Thank you.
in a wonderful costume.
That costume, yeah. I was looking back on the pictures
Did
of
your
it.
arm hurt holding it up all the time?
Oh my gosh, yes. I remember there was a scene I had to walk up the stairs, and my costume, there was a hula hoop in it, so it was large, and the staircase was more narrow than my costume was. And every night I was so scared I was gonna fall down the stairs because my costume was too big. I would have to like
Speaking of big costumes, weren't you Ursula also?
I was. That one. I remember in that costume, I was I tried to be very good about going to the bathroom before the shows, but there was one where I didn't, and it took a team of about 3 people to help me hold the costume while I went to the bathroom.
That was a massive costume with all the tentacles.
It was awesome though. It was such a cool costume, and the makeup and the hair and everything was.
And again, you were amazing in that one too. And you know what?
Thank you.
I think you're one of our actors who really grew through the years. I think you took all the different parts, and I know you had told me previously that you didn't think you were a singer, but then you just exploded and got all
Yeah.
these great parts as a singer. So I think that's a testament to all your hard work too. Do you
Thank
have any?
you. I think that shows how great the Wild Horse team is too, helping me
Well, thank you for
grow in
that.
that way. Yeah.
Do you have any crazy or funny stories that might have happened backstage or on stage to you?
I was thinking about all of the crazy stuff that's happened, and I'm sure there's a ton that I'm not thinking of, but there was one that I had thought of that made me laugh looking back on it. It was actually during The Little Mermaid, and there was that one scene where Prince Eric and Ariel are in the boat, and this is when she doesn't have her voice, and Prince Eric is trying to guess Ariel's name. I don't know if you remember this story. He was trying to guess Ariel's name, and it was the very last show of it. I don't remember if it was the last show or the show that was being recorded, but Henry, who was playing Prince Eric, instead of listing off the names that were given, like, is your name Sarah or
Right.
Ashley? He used the names of people who were in the cast. So he's like, is your name Peyton? Heather? So that was
Oh,
really funny to look back on.
another backstage story or onstage story that the directors have no idea. I probably went right over my head when I'm watching from the audience.
Really,
That's a great
I
story.
remember that there was a discussion that happened afterwards. So you should run
Oh,
that by the directors before you
like
do.
stay on the script, right? Don't
Yeah.
change anything.
Yep. Yep.
That's a lesson that our actors need to learn all the time. So,
It was really funny at the time.
what are you doing now up in Oregon? I mean, you graduated from college, so tell us where you went to college and what you wound up doing. Did you stay in the arts or are you doing something else?
Yeah, so I went to college at Southern Oregon University, which is in Ashland. Actually, the first time I came up to Ashland and toured the area was on a theater trip. I went with the high school theater troupe to see some OSF shows, the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and I just thought it was a gorgeous area and I loved it here, and so I stayed. But in college, I got my degree in psychology with a minor in gender, sexuality, and women's studies. And now I am working as a domestic violence advocate at Child Welfare, which
Ah,
is a little bit different than the performing arts.
right.
Yeah.
But I bet that your time doing performing arts lends itself to, well, any kind of career, speaking to
Mhm.
people. I think you give lectures sometimes or you do trainings, and
Yes,
those
yeah,
kind of things are important.
yeah. I've had coworkers come up to me and say, like, I can tell that you used to do theater. And I'm like,
Right.
how can you tell that? And they say, you just have such a knack for connecting with people. And I think that a lot of that was because of theater. I mean, you have to be vulnerable and connect with people to be an actor. So
I
I
always
think
tell
it
kids
translates
that,
in all areas.
yeah, no matter what career you pick, theater is always a good stepping stone and good training.
Yeah. And just the
So,
confidence that I got through theater too has been super helpful.
right, especially for interviews, I bet.
Oh yeah.
um,
Totally.
so, so I know because I follow your Facebook page and your family's Facebook page. I know that you didn't take yourself out completely in performance, and I know that in
I
college
couldn't
you
have
were
stayed away.
involved. So, can you tell us what you did in college for performing?
Yes. So in college for about 3 years, I was in an a cappella group. And 2 of those years, I was the president of the a cappella group. It was super fun.
So, what did you do? Did you travel with them? Did you do performances up in Oregon? Any place else?
Yeah, so we did performances. We did a lot of performances like around the Ashland community. We did like retirement homes, and there was one that we performed for some Girl Scout troops, which was really cool. But we also performed at the competition that's in Pitch Perfect, the movie Pitch Perfect. It's the ICCA competition, and we did that it was in Salem, Oregon, at the Elsinore Theater. It was really cool.
That sounds exciting. So, how do you rehearse that? Do you have to figure out which parts people play? Is that what you did as president, or did you have a musical director doing that?
Yeah, so we had a president and a musical director. And so my side was taking care of a lot of like the organizational things and the rehearsal schedules and figuring out all that stuff. And then when people auditioned is when we'd figure out their voice parts, if they were soprano, alto, tenor, bass. And then the musical director would be the one to arrange the songs and help it sound pretty.
That's great. And what I'm asking everybody also, so why didn't you pursue a career in performing arts? What drew you to the career you're in now?
Yeah. So in high school was the first time I took a psychology course and I just fell in love with it. And I think that's where my heart really is. And I thought too that, I mean, theater is wonderful and amazing, but I definitely thought that a career in psychology would be a lot more stable. And I realized too, I know you're talking about how I didn't take myself out of the arts, and I did a couple shows in college too. And I think it was helpful to realize that I didn't have to do theater full time and still do something that I enjoyed, but just not as a career. And I think that was part of it too, was not wanting to take the fun out of it. Like I was afraid that if I did it full time as a career, then I would lose that passion for it. But I mean, I think there are people who still have that amazing passion for it years later, and I super admire that, and I think it's amazing.
And you're up in Ashland where the Shakespeare Festival is, so you are surrounded by amazing theater all the time.
Yeah,
So
I am very lucky.
you get to go and
I
see a
have
lot of the shows.
friends who are in OSF this year, which is really exciting.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I know the shows up there are just amazing, and
Mhm.
we like to go up at least once a year and see shows, and I get to see Peyton when I go up too.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give our young rising stars that are in Waldhorst now that might be looking at a career in the arts or not pursuing a career in the arts, but maybe just doing this for fun? What suggestions would you give them?
I think that the advice that I got that was most helpful was, I mean, obviously all great advice came from you, but you say all the time there's no small parts. And I think that was something that I really resonated with and was really helpful for me because like I remember there was one show where I literally was in like one scene, walk on, walk off, and like I did everything that I could to make that scene stand out or make it funny or enjoyable. And I think that even if you're not the lead or you didn't get the part that you wanted, that doesn't mean that you're not important to the show because every role is super important to the show. A show couldn't happen without every single person in the cast. And so just taking whatever role you get and going with it and making it the best you can be was great advice.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. It's an important lesson, but it's also important that kids realize that the audience members, you may have the smallest part, but the audience member will come up to me and say, "Oh, that person that was the maid, I just couldn't take my eyes off of her," or that person that walked across did it so funny, and we watch that as directors also for the next show. We know, oh, that person's really growing. And I think you're a great example of that, Peyton, because I mean, you started
Yeah.
out in small parts. You were tiny.
Yeah.
You were
I was
really young.
9 when I started with Wild Horse. Yeah.
Yeah, you were very young and started out small parts and ended up being Miss Potts and in a beautiful Beauty and the Beast production. So
It
I
was
can't tell you how
amazing.
proud we are of you and
Thank
everything that you're
you.
doing now, all the
Thank
good you're bringing to the world.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for sharing this time with us and
Of course.
updating us.
Yeah.
And we'll be in touch again soon, but stay healthy and stay safe up there in Shakespeare country.
Yes, you too. Stay
Yeah.
safe.
And great seeing you.
You too. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you, sweetie. Bye.
Bye.
Are they